What's up everybody, it's Robin Gaming here. So Neil Druckmann recently spoke with The Sun, a British newspaper that apparently not that many people like, I found out. But anyway, they interviewed him to talk about Uncharted 4, and specifically they asked him about the ending, and what he said about the ending for Uncharted 4 is quite interesting. So I'm quickly going to read exactly what he said. He says, "We've been with this character for so long. He's at the height of his popularity, so it's not a good business decision to, end the franchise. But I feel like it is the best way to honor him is to go out on top to finish the story. Whether that's it for Uncharted, I don't know. At the end of the day, Sony owns Uncharted and they can do whatever they want." And then Druckmann drops the bomb, it says, "But with the end of this story, it will be really hard to do a sequel with Nathan Drake." So people are losing their shit right now. Everybody is like, oh my god, Nathan Drake is dying, and that's what I pretty much want to talk about, because of course it makes it seem really quite obvious, or like a pretty big hint that Drake will not make it at the end of the game, right? Because how otherwise would it be really hard to do a sequel with Nathan Drake? But that's exactly what I think is so, is so interesting. I guess, first of all, let me just say, I don't think Neil Druckmann would say a thing like this when it makes it seem so clear that Nathan Drake is dying in the game, right? He's not going to spoil that in such a big way, so it makes me believe even more that this is not how it's actually going to end. I do believe it's going to end in a way that Nathan Drake, yeah, that it will be really hard to do a sequel like he says, but that doesn't necessarily have to be him dying, of course. It could be a different thing. It could be him losing a limb, it could be him maybe thinking that, or just something that's making him not want to do this anymore, right? And therefore it being really hard for him to get back into the scene after Uncharted 4 is done. I just think when looking at the previous Uncharted games, how they all kind of like ended in a really happy way, of course, with the three main characters together, it would be such a weird shift all of a sudden to have Nathan Drake die at the end of the franchise then, if you've had three happy endings, then how can you do the last, or the real, kind of like a final ending, right, to be so sad in a way? So it seems really unlikely to me. Of course they could pull it off and have it still be really emotional and maybe fitting as well, or seemingly fitting. I put all my faith in Naughty Dog to know what the ending should be for this, but that being said, I've always thought that what is going to happen is there is going to be something that's going to have a real emotional impact, but that won't be Drake himself dying. It will be a different character that's going to die, and I've said that multiple times in my predictions. I think the two characters that have the biggest chance of dying in Uncharted 4 are Sam and Elena, and those are really the two characters that I would say, as I said, have the biggest chance, and I could see either one of them, maybe even both, dying in the game. And yeah, of course it's all to be seen, and we don't know anything really about, for example, Sam. Is he a bad guy? Is he a good guy in the end? If he is a bad guy, would that really have an impact on Drake when he dies, right? If he is a good guy, then we know that of course it will have a big, effect on Drake. But of course Elena, in that way, Elena is kind of like what they keep talking about, right? Is that Elena does not want Drake to go back into the treasure hunting scene, but Drake is doing it anyway in the game, and of course that's going to have its repercussions, that's going to have its effects, and that could result in, for example, in some way, Elena dying and making Drake feel really sorry about the choice he made there. So I do believe we are going to get something this time around that's going to be pretty emotional, that's going to have an impact on us, and that's going to make us real or feel pretty bad, honestly. I do believe that for sure. I think there's going to be something significant happening in this final game, and that also is once again going to be a shift from the previous three games. But that being said, I think it's necessary. I think it would be nice if we had something like this, so it's not always the typical happy stuff and everybody survives, only the villains die, that kind of stuff. No, something is going to happen here that we wouldn't exactly see coming. So yeah, and that way, it is going to be, in my opinion, what's going to be the ending for the game is that something will happen in Drake's life that's going to really make him feel like, I am never going to get back into this, and it's going to be pretty much, the end of a thief, I guess, a thief's end, right? People have been speculating about that subtitle for so long, is what does it mean? What does a thief's end mean? And I think, just like with all the previous titles as well, it kind of like hints at different characters. It says something about different characters, because what it could mean is it could mean Drake, kind of like quitting the scene, right? A thief's end. It could mean Sam dying in the game, just like I said. let the thieves end in that way, and it could have something to do with, you know, with the sort of like explorers that they're going to be covering in this one, so Henry Avery and stuff. We saw with, you know, with Francis Drake, of course, and Drake's deception. The deception basically meant two things. It meant the deception of Drake towards the Queen, Queen Elizabeth, that whole storyline, but it also meant Nathan Drake's deception of his name not being his actual name, and he's pretty much been lying to his friends all along that he's actually not called Nathan Drake. Drake is not his final name because he made it up that he's a descendant of Francis Drake himself, you know, just because he had a really troubled past and stuff. So yeah, that's what I believe myself. I think that is how it's going to end. I think that is how Uncharted 4 will ultimately end. What the subtitle means, it's referring to all these different things, and in my opinion, Neil Druckmann wouldn't be like dropping all these hints, you know, if it made it that obvious what the actual ending is going to be, right? So with that being said, I of course want to know from you in the comments, how do you think Uncharted 4 Thieves End will actually end? What will, you know, what will the end for the actual franchise, for the actual series be? It's going to be really interesting to see that. The game is coming out in about 3.5 months from now, so I can't wait. Super exciting stuff. But for now, thanks a lot for watching, and I hope to see you again next time.